He's, he's getting me. And he does not say anything. Okay. Next question is from Lillian. Why did the Turkish millionaire give Andrew money?
Well, that's the big $100,000 question. The sensible reason was he helped her get a passport, but I mean, he didn't have that power, and you would, of course, pay someone to get a passport. So she was misled. But he's never really explained this money. The case, I think, continues. It's gone through various incarnations. I've tried to find out more. I've approached the lawyers on both sides. I've looked at all the legal reports, what's in the public domain. And it's a real mystery. Some deal was done with the Yorks, basically to shut down their involvement. So it's now focused on the relationship between Isabel and Salman Turk. But all sorts of names come into it. Tarak Khatuni, who was, as Shaun was saying, was very much involved in their business activities and was giving gifts to members of the family. A man called Adrian Gleave, who's also runs a company called Alphabet Capital that was giving money to Fergie. So it's very difficult to pin down how all the firms operate together, because they tend to be firms that have no staff, have no premises, don't seem to be doing anything, and yet there seems to be money being shifted around. So I have to be careful on legal grounds, but this is one of the areas that the lawyers looked at very carefully. But I think there's certainly a lot more to that story than has come out. Whether we'll ever know the full story, I interviewed Salman Turk, but he didn't, as you can imagine, tell me the full story. We'll never know.
Is your publisher under a lot of pressure from the palace right now?
They're certainly under pressure from various lawyers acting for various people, and who they're acting for isn't always clear. Clearly a word has been put out into the media not to cover my book, for example. It's all made up, I'm not reliable, etc. The same old things I had in previous books. So yeah, there are tame people. I got savaged on a interview with a channel last night, completely hijacked, with someone who wouldn't allow me even to talk.
What? Who? I won't ask who, because they'll just advertise it. Tell me later.
But anyway, someone who's a very establishment figure, and was trying to earn some brownie points, and clearly hadn't even read the book. So
not bloody Piers.
No, not Piers Morgan.
Okay.
But someone else. Piers Morgan is very friendly to Fergie, so I know I'm sort of prepared if I do an interview with Piers Morgan what's going to happen. But a very good question. How can so many people still be romanticizing this morally bankrupt family? Well, they still shape the narrative. They have PR people and lawyers and a very deferential press, and people want to buy into the dream. And some of them do a terrific job, and I think should be respected and admired. But quite a lot of them, I'm afraid, and this couple is a good example, are doing very little for their country and doing an awful lot for themselves.
Does the royal family have any relevance in the future? Will we always have them, or maybe let them live normal lives like everyone else?
Well, who knows? Other monarchies have collapsed and were one of the few survivors, but it's been very resilient. It's gone through a lot of scandals, a lot of changes. I mean, one of its strengths is its ability to evolve. I think the future actually looks fine. We've got William and Catherine, who are very popular, who I think have a very clear sense of what a modern monarchy should look like. It should be relatable, but it should still have that dignity. It should actually have a very strong role with its charitable work. It should be an example to the country in terms of their lifestyle. And we have their children who look like beautifully brought up children, very endearing and brought up with the same values. So I think the monarchy will survive, but who knows? It has to be put. It's going to be quite difficult to kill it. I think we'll see it playing a less influential role, and I think a downplaying of a lot of the pomp, certainly a streamlined monarchy, and much more focus on the core principles and fewer people standing on the balcony.
H wants to know, why are Sarah and Charles so interested in Transylvania? Aren't they descended from Vlad the Impaler?
Yeah, Charles sort of fell in love with the country and has brought property there and has been very supportive. And he has these quirks of places that clearly speak to him, and it's a great thing. I don't think Sarah Ferguson is very interested in Transylvania, but she's done a lot of relief work in places like Romania and Poland, but I've not come across her in Transylvania. What are my qualifications? Well, 4 years of research. I mean, I'm a trained historian. I have a PhD, fellow of the Royal Society of History, was a fellow of a Cambridge college. So this is academic rigor I hope I bring to it. I hope I bring my reputation for being accurate and meticulous in my research. But clearly I would have a much easier life if I wrote about less controversial subjects. I mean, I'm accused of just doing salacious, I was described as writing salacious rubbish. And of course one's going to get these attacks, and that's why it's important that my sources are reliable. I do double check them, and that I'm not sort of undermined by some of the material I have to draw on. But I think a crystallizing moment for me was actually researching my intelligence book on Guy Burgess and seeing the cover-ups that go on and the reluctance to reveal papers. And that was cemented subsequently by my book on Lord Mountbatten and then a book on Edward VIII. But I wasn't a royal historian to start with. I wrote literary biography. I then moved into intelligence books. So I'm not, as Victoria Harvey says, got this lifelong obsession with the royal family and the Yorks and some personal vendetta against them. I've got to confess I don't spend much time in my life thinking about the Yorks once I've done my research. But I do think it's important that that with anyone, whether it's a biographer or a journalist, that we do try and get to the truth, that we aren't just fed rubbish and put that stuff out. And that's what Shaun is doing with his podcast too. He's trying to get to the truth, and I just wish more people supported that, supported freedom of information and the organizations and the people who are keen to attack the curated version of our history and what I call the censorship.
Yeah, and Andrew's original podcast we did years ago, he talks about Burgess and Mountbatten and Kincora, and we're going to re-release that one on the 18th. So I'll put the link in the description box when I finish this interview. So, Sian, apart from the legal issues you are having, has your safety been affected at any time? Thank you for your level-headed approach.
No, I don't feel I'm going to be firebombed or run over. But clearly, if I disappear, found after a week and having disappeared, then maybe we should change that view. But they have other pressures, and one is discrediting you. One is trying to limit your profile, trying to stop the press talking, covering your books, which has happened. And clearly financial pressure through these slaps, these legal approaches to try and intimidate and scare one. But all that does is makes me double down and be more determined to tell the story and actually to turn it on these people and to say that one isn't going to give into this bullying and, to very happily meet them in court. Of course, these things get expensive and that's the problem. But I have the advantage with this book of my publishers being very supportive and actually fighting the cases on my behalf.
It takes years to write a book, and then all of a sudden it's done, and you're all over the media this week. Do you find it exhilarating or exhausting this week?
Well, a bit of both. I mean, particularly, this is only the second day of broadcast interview. I couldn't talk. It was under embargo until yesterday. But I have a full-time job as an agent. I was having to do that in between interviews yesterday. Lots of people getting in touch. And it is exhilarating. It's good to see the reaction. It's nice when people support and reinforce what you found. Tom Sykes, who's a journalist at the Daily Beast, has been very supportive. He said, a lot of these stories I knew about, we couldn't report them. I'm now going to go public on them myself. So you don't feel that you're a lone person in this and can be picked off. So yeah, that is nice. And actually one of the things that came from this appearing on this program is the number of people, both on Twitter, but also contacted me directly saying, that was appalling what went on and how you were treated. and don't let it get you down. And those sort of small things really count. We are part of a big community who believe in the truth and holding powerful people to account, and that's one of the really nice things about it. Now, do I really think Epstein killed himself? No, I don't. I think all the evidence I've seen, and I put some of it in the book, and clearly there's a lot of it in the public domain. I don't think even his lawyers or anyone thinks that he killed himself. So I don't know what the second question was, Sarah. I hadn't finished reading it.
We had a Mark Epstein interview on last week, and he is adamant that there should be a murder investigation. That other one was about the Lownie name. Is it from Ireland?
Lownie name comes from the northeast of Scotland, but you're absolutely right. There are variations with branches of the family in Ireland, so there is a bit of Irish blood there. So you're absolutely right.
Can you explain why the freedom of information has the power to seal files for so long? Surely truth matters.
Well, freedom of information is meant to actually open the files. The problem is freedom of information is sort of going backwards at the moment. The reason that so many files are sealed are the exemptions that are in the Act, which can be interpreted as the public authorities wish. So they can accuse you of being vexatious if you ask too many questions. They hide behind cost compliance, saying there's too much material here, it'll be too expensive to look at it. They can hide behind national security, health and safety, personal data, relations with other countries, and of course the royal family have their own exemption, which means we can't look at anything connected with them. So we need a reform of the Freedom of Information Act. We need much greater implementation of it. The Information Commissioner is very weak. They have the powers, they're just choosing not to exercise them. And we just need more pressure from the courts and from the public, from Parliament, and from the media. That's the only way that things will change.
So Starmer was boasting to Trump that we've got excellent freedom of speech in this country. Do you think that's not the case?
No, I don't think we do. I think, we have, I see it in publishing. Publishers frightened to publish books. I've got one at the moment on Farage. People are scared of publishing the book because of libel. And just the hassle of dealing with any nuisance suits brought. The press is much easier to do lifestyle, soft journalism lifestyle than to do hard-hitting investigations where it's expensive in terms of employing journalists, but also in the legal costs. So those things are not happening. And people will feel more and more frightened to speak out about things for being cancelled. Or I see it with even royal historians who daren't raise their head above the parapet because they would lose access to important sources of information. So yeah, it is rather depressing. I hope that the pendulum will swing back and people will realize how precious our freedom of speech is, and that we mustn't surrender it. We see what's going on in America at the moment, and that should give us pause for thought.
Dan Bongino said his stomach turned by what he saw in the files, yet still no action. What, in your opinion, do you think he saw?
Well, who knows? But it seems to me it takes quite a lot to turn the stomach of a senior official. I think there were clearly pictures of some pretty awful things happening, or film, clearly of young girls. I think that's what possibly was shocking. People talk about them being pornographic, but clearly there were perhaps people there or names there that were surprising. Who knows? We won't know until the material is released.
Why do you think
Maxwell be moved to Texas? Well, I think, as I said, I think she's been moved not to become closer to Washington, to be moved further away where people can't monitor what's going on.
Okay. Exactly who is Lady Victoria Hervey? Didn't she date Prince Andrew at one point?
Yes, she claims that. I have found no evidence to support that. And I'd be interested if anyone ever did find any evidence to support that. But clearly she's very friendly with him. She's very close to a whole series of people who are championing the Ghislaine Maxwell. There's the Maxwell brothers are paying a PR man to push this story that Maxwell is innocent and Andrew is innocent and Jeffrey is a liar. And she's part of that. I don't take her seriously. I don't know many people who do.
So you're getting asked about, oh, here's a nice one. Andrew, you are a modern day truth knight. Thank you for your true grit. And you were getting asked
well, that's
about...
nice of you to say that. Someone described me as an obsessive. I like to describe myself as determined and refusing to be bowed by bullies.
Deborah, Mr. Lownie, Andrew stated in that famous interview that he was injured. Did you find any proof of that?
I think she's referring to the fact that he had this syndrome that he couldn't sweat. But as everyone has been pointing out, plenty of pictures of him sweating in the year 2000. And no one had ever heard of this particular ailment. So, I'm afraid this is why I say lots of stuff is made up and you can't believe it. And why they should think that anyone could believe this stuff is just shows how unself-aware he is.
Why did the British government make Andrew a trade envoy if they knew he was so easily led and immoral?
Well, good question. I mean, Prince Charles was certainly against it and advised them. I think Blair and Mandelson were two of the people who were involved in this decision, and they thought that he needed to be parked somewhere. He needed to be given something to do age 40, now that he'd left the Navy, and they thought he might be effective. I think the extraordinary thing is that when things went wrong pretty quickly, he wasn't moved aside or more properly supervised, but they kind of let him get on with it and do his own thing.
Thank you for the super sticker, Stephanie. Neil wants to know, is there any information about Andrew and Queen Victoria School in Dunblane?
No, I haven't researched that. I mean, I know there are people like Joanna Britton who have written a lot about that, but it's not something I've looked at.
Okay. Does Andrew think Meghan Markle has too much dirt on the royal family to let her go?
Well, I think that's always the suspicion. I mean, that's true of Fergie as well. And that's why they're held close. I mean, well, except that Meghan isn't being held very close at the moment. She's been sort of put at arm's length. But yeah, I mean, Meghan has hinted that she has stories she could tell. That must be a concern to them.
You're getting asked about the decision-making process in Savile getting knighted. Does that show an immoral, they don't consider these kinds of offences as too serious?
Well, the honours system should be independent. It should go through an independent honours committee. I mean, people clearly can make recommendations. And my reading of this is that if the royals make a recommendation, it tends to get pushed through. I think that's clearly where their power lies. But you would think there would be due diligence, anything that might actually blow back and be embarrassing. But, Savile, I mean, though he was living in plain sight. I mean, people were complaining about him and nothing was being done. And we see this time and time again, whether it's grooming gangs or Andrew. People just stick their head in the sand, don't want to know about it, don't want to address the problem.
Yeah, and he got away with it for many, many decades. Andrew, we've answered all the questions. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the viewers, and what can they look forward to when they click on the link and get your book?
Well, I mean, the British edition is an amazing value. It's £11, half price. It's 4 picture inserts, I think about 60 pages, all full color. It's extraordinary. I don't know how anyone can be making any money on that book. So it's incredibly good value. Someone just very kindly described it as a headline on every page. So we've only been able to dip into the tip of the iceberg of what's in the book. And so I hope you will want to read it and find out what else there is there.
Well, thank you for being with us. I know you're a busy man, especially this week. I'm going to close the show and let you go.